When you need someone to talk to and you don't know what to do, call us 4400. When you're feeling all alone and they turn their back on you, call us 4400. Call us 4400. Call us 4400. Call us.
All right, guys, welcome to the Kind Counseling Podcast. I'm your host, Cammie Roberts. Once again, we're here to give insights and to share information and bring light to various topics that affect our communities at large. And Kind Counseling is a mental health practice that gives hope to the hopeless through mental health empowerment and spiritual insight. And today we're talking self-care. All right, and a big part of self-care is having positive outlets to bring you happiness and excitement. And nothing excites me more than getting together with these two dudes, right? Two of my best friends in the world.
Oh, appreciate that. Oh, wow. Oh,
yeah, man.
That's high praise.
Mr.
We became best friends, bro.
We got Mr. Deshaun Geddes and Mr. Fred Charles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. What's up, fellas?
We, maintaining.
Yeah,
We all got wives, so you know how that is.
Yes. We are quarantined still.
Yes. So today we're gonna talk about a movie and a documentary, because from time to time we just chop it up and talk about different things going on in society, and these guys give me a real good outlet to talk about stuff and to make jokes and all that stuff. So it's always important that you got friends to talk to and just be silly and hang out with. So here we go. So the two things we're gonna look at is the movie One Night in Miami, the new Regina King movie on Amazon, and then we're gonna look at the new documentary on Netflix called Crack. All right, so if you guys haven't watched the movie, we are trying to spoil it for you. Maybe you want to turn it down at this point, but so Fred, you're gonna lead us into that.
Yeah, I saw the movie after my wife and son watched it, and of course they weren't too thrilled with the movie from start to finish. But I'll start off with the positives. I think the gentleman who played Muhammad Ali did a very good job, especially when we consider how many times we've seen people attempt to be other people like Muhammad Ali or Malcolm X, and oftentimes, it's a daunting job. And if you know anything about those people, we're often disappointed because they don't look like them, they don't move like them, they don't sound like them. So we're just stuck in that place where we're like, okay, I can't get past this because this guy is not fill in the blank. But this gentleman does a very good job. I mean, I think he resembles him. His physique is pretty accurate. His cadence, I think, was spot on. Conversely, the brother who plays Malcolm X, he was all Obama to me. To me, he was a Barack Obama. Apparently,
He looked like Mario Van Peebles to me.
he looks like him.
All right.
He looks like them. But here's the thing that you have to understand: he had just completed a movie where he plays Obama, which explains why he came off as being Obama to me. And by the way, his name is Eli Gorey, and the brother who plays, the guy who plays Cassius Clay is Eli Gorey, and the brother who plays Malcolm X is Kingsley Ben Adir. So Mr. Ben Adir came off as Obama the entire time. The brother who plays Jim Brown, Aldis Hodge, I'm sure he's a good actor. But I didn't get much from that particular role, unfortunately. Leslie Odom, who plays Sam Cooke, obviously one of the highlights of the movie is how he ends it with "A Change Is Gonna Come." I've heard several renditions of the song. Most people can't do it. I think if there's anybody in my lifetime who's done a decent job, I would have to give that to Sam Cooke. So the two positives: Sam Cooke played by Leslie Odom, and brother Eli Gorey, who plays Cassius Clay. Now, the biggest complaint that my wife had was she didn't think the direction was good. Of course, we know that this is Regina King's first feature film being directed. She has done television before, but never done a full-length movie. And you know what? For a first time, I think it was okay. Because a lot of people who don't look like her get boatloads of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, to make a movie, and they completely chop it up. They destroy it. So if she's given a chance to make a movie, was it worthy of an Academy Award or any award? Probably not. Will I ever watch the movie again? Probably not. But like I said to my wife, anything that we've done
Support
as
Regina
individuals,
King.
the first time we did it, it wasn't all that.
True.
So
Right.
if this was her first movie, listen, I think it was pretty okay. And I'm sure, I hope she gets more opportunities. She's talented. She's likable. So what would I say overall about the movie? I always say, don't take my word for it. Go see the movie for yourself. If I had a critique, would be the words that were coming out of Malcolm X's mouth. Like, one, he's cursing. Okay. Again, did he curse in his private life? Maybe. I highly doubt it, because even according to the FBI, he was straight and narrow in terms of everything. In terms
He
of
cursed in the movie?
What's that?
I don't remember him cursing in the movie.
I believe there's a swear word here or there. But the point is,
Okay.
it reminds me of the play Mountaintop, which was with Samuel Jackson and I'm going to say Angela Bassett. And it's just two of them, and it's about the night before Martin Luther King dies. And they couldn't have gotten a worse person to play Martin Luther King. Okay.
Okay.
Because all the negative things that you can think about a man is exuded in this American hero. So I wasn't too thrilled with that portrayal of Malcolm. He was also very preachy. And before I wrap up, I'll just say this. I spent, I think, the last 15 years reading a lot about Malcolm, watching documentaries, reading his speeches, people's account of him. And to a man, he was not like that in his personal life. Like, he was not coming out as being preachy. He wasn't making you feel bad about yourself. In fact, he was very gregarious, and he was apparently a good person to hang around with. And he made you feel good. You know, he made you happy, as opposed to, you know, the videos that you see of him, the fire and brimstone, pro-black rhetoric. So I just don't think the delivery. And again, it's the director's choice, the playwright's choice to put those words into people's mouths. I thought it was inconsistent, but I do think the content was appropriate.
Well, hold on. So, all right. So, wasn't the context, though, like him being under a lot of pressure because he was about to leave the Nation of Islam, and he was trying to get those guys to rally around him, like his agenda, so to speak?
Yeah, I think he wants them to think about the bigger picture, the black community, and these guys really, each one of them, in a way, were thinking about themselves. You know, Jim Brown is making the movie. Sam Cooke is worried about selling records, and Muhammad Ali, you know, he just won the championship. Everything else is on the back burner as far as he's concerned. And Malcolm is frustrated because obviously they're not in the same place that he's in, especially with Muhammad Ali, who was a recent convert. But with that being said, I still think I don't know, and we'll never know, but I'm not sure if Malcolm would have said those words at that time, because that was a time of celebration, not a time of, demonstration.
Well, the part that stood out to me was when Jim Brown was on the patio talking to the dude in the beginning, and he tried to go inside the house to help the dude out. And the dude was like, we don't let niggas come in. I mean, I was like, that was like a shocking moment, man. Like, almost like like in a sense, I was thinking about today's society in the sense of we want you to entertain us and you're exciting on the field and everything, but you gotta know your limits, all right? In a sense, right? Where, go ahead, Deshaun.
No, I feel like you're absolutely right. I just feel like you said, there's so many levels.
Yeah.
There's a certain level, you know, like us. Let's say us three men, we have a great idea, right?
Right.
And we're pitch it to someone, but I feel like they'll look at us like we're not on their level, so they won't give us no time. You kind of get it? Like, it's crazy.
Right.
But, first of all, Charles, you did an amazing job breaking it.
Thank you.
Right off the bat, because you made me look at other things I wasn't even looking at. I'm like, okay. Okay, but back to One Night in Miami. One, I want to give Regina King her credit. You know, this woman came a long way. She came a long way, and we gotta give the woman her credit. Okay. Two, what's crazy is the fact that those four men were in that hotel room is kind of crazy. So I think a lot of people was trying to think of what they could have possibly been saying. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So on that level, they could have just been praying. Who knows?
I suppose.
You know,
Yeah.
I think it's hard because they're four iconic men that is so hard to think. Like maybe Jim Brown will be saying this. Maybe Malcolm X will be saying this. See, they figured that, and what you said, Charles, they figured that Malcolm X will be preaching. But what if you didn't? What if he was just listening to these guys talk? You know what I'm saying? But just because that's the type of people wanted to feel like that's what he was, like, you know, he was like a preacher or just like kind of like a minister.
Right.
Who knows? You know what I'm saying? For him to convert Muhammad Ali, to me, the way Muhammad Ali was, on how he thought,
Right.
you know, that's pretty remarkable within itself. Because you got a young 22-year-old man who you know,
On top of
he
the
has
world, right.
to tell him, hey brother, you know, I think you'll be better on this side. You know, that I thought that was, you know, that's kind of amazing within itself. Because at 22, a lot of us brothers wasn't listening to anybody.
No.
Especially if, you know, I got money here, you know.
Right.
I'm champion of the world, you know. So I thought that was amazing. I thought the guy that played Sam Cooke, he didn't look like him, but I thought he did an amazing job.
Yeah,
You
he's
know,
a good actor.
Feel like he don't look nothing like Sam Cooke, but you kind of felt like, okay, brother, do your thing. Like, okay, because it's hard. I feel like it's so hard to play another human being. You know, because people are always gonna be like, that wasn't right. It's so hard.
But then again, and sorry to cut you off, but how much do we really know about Sam Cooke?
Right.
So Sam Cooke, I mean, I haven't seen too much footage of Sam Cooke, but there's a lot of footage of Malcolm X. And when Denzel does Malcolm X, I think that's it. It's like, okay, no more people. Like,
Yeah.
nobody else. You can't do it. No. But
Right.
And I think our acceptance of Leslie Odom doing Sam Cooke is because we don't know.
Right, we really don't.
But he
Good
does
point.
do a decent job.
Yes, he does. He does.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too. The idea that Malcolm X would be fighting somebody on a on a roof. I was like, I mean, like you said, I don't picture Malcolm X doing that, but I guess, I mean, you know, obviously he wasn't. I guess we don't look at him as a punk either, so you know.
Right.
But
Right.
you know, I guess when you think of him, like you said in the Malcolm X movie with Denzel, somehow you can't picture him having a fight with somebody. But you know, it was maybe they took some creative liberties with it. You know.
Yes. Yes.
So this generation, in some way, I felt like they was trying to relate it to this generation. What else? I enjoyed the movie. I did. I enjoyed it because I really didn't know. You know, certain things you don't know. Like these four men, I thought, you know, I heard of Sam Cooke, I heard of Jim Brown, I heard of Muhammad Ali, and I heard of Malcolm X. But I never thought that these brothers spent one night in Miami together.
Right.
You know,
Right.
And I think that's amazing. That's like you having Barack, Jay-Z, you know,
interesting.
other people in nature, like
Right.
just chilling, and it happens.
Mm.
It definitely does happen. But everybody wants to know what these men were thinking about.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think I think the one part that really stood out for me also in the movie was Malcolm X really challenging the other guys to use their platforms to push a black agenda, or to to really say like, you guys got more power than you think you do. You know, use
Right.
it for for the betterment of your people. And I mean, I think that's a message that still resonates now today, right? Because, like even what happened over the summer with like the NBA players and, them boycotting the playoff game and, LeBron speaking out and all the other stuff that came with it. I just think that athletes and entertainers have such a huge platform to influence so many people that, I think they really need to take advantage of it. You know what I mean? So that's something that stood out with me.
Right, but see, I just feel like once they start taking advantage of it, that's when the assassinations come, the killings come. Because as soon as you get to a certain point when you influence so many people, that's why we're not gonna have another Malcolm X or a Martin Luther King, because somehow once we get a guy that can actually generate that much, something happens to him. And I think that's so sad, and everybody knows it. And to the point where they even use our own people to kill them, to kill people that's a part of this movement, and then you know what I'm saying. And I think that's what it is wrong. Like certain people, like I don't want to take us off subject, but come on, Kai, come on. See, this is why you can't have young kids. This is my son here. Hey, say hey.
Hey, Kyrie.
All right, but like certain brothers who try to teach,
right,
they end up getting killed. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to take us off subject. Like there's certain like people like I don't mean to bring it up, but like Nipsey Hussle. He was a rapper, but he was trying to, buy his own community and what's called. And then the next thing you know, he gets killed by a brother. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing if that brother was, telling maybe the FBI or the feds was telling him, listen, if you do this for us, don't worry about it.
Right.
And knows. But we automatically, it's gang related.
I think you should watch Who Killed Malcolm X, which is also on Netflix.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
that was good, man. That was good.
That was really good, Fred. And it sucks because it was his own people that actually killed him.
But you have to understand, none of these, at least in my opinion, none of these assassinations are just some rogue individual who's just getting a Glock and going. There's some money behind it, often some type of incentive. If it's not money, it could be freedom. If you don't do this, you're going to do 25.
Right.
Behind bars or whatever. You look at somebody like Fred Hampton. Right. That brother, first of all, was 22 years old?
Right.
Yeah.
Dropping some serious knowledge. And look, they go in and they just assassinate him. Okay? But to your point, Deshaun, they're afraid of the Black Messiah.
Right.
Because even today, when you look at a lot of these Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter is it's not centralized.
Right.
Like people might think, like, the civil rights movement.
Right.
But the local leaders have been committed suicide or have been found dead. Nobody really talks about them because they're not national figures.
Right.
But the point is, they were doing some things. How do you explain these deaths of these people who are so young?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that's the risk you had to take, man. I mean, if change is actually going to happen, it's a big risk. But, it's I don't know. I mean, black people are in a quandary in this country, man, in the sense like if you're going to stay in, white America, so to speak, you're going to be subjected to these kind of things. So are you better off, separating and going somewhere else? So I can't see that happening, but,
Well, listen, over the last, I think, 5 to 10 years, there have been a number of people who have left the United States. I'm talking about black men and women who've left the United States, moved to other countries because they're sick and tired of what living in America as a black person means and everything that comes with it.
You're listening to the Kind Counseling Podcast. Feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now back to the show. Right.
The question is, can we do that? I don't know what the percentages are, but if 10% of us did that, it would make a huge dent in the American economy.
Yes, it would.
True. All right. So I don't want to risk going off too far into into black politics, but it's gonna be hard considering the next topic we're talking about.
Inevitable.
So the next thing we're gonna talk about is the Netflix documentary Crack, right? Which kind of it takes you through how crack came about in the 1980s. How it became such a big hit on the street, the legal aspect, the government involvement, and ultimately the long-term.
Can you give me 1 second? Yeah, keep going, Kemi.
Sure. The long-term effects on the black community, which we're still pretty much feeling today, right? So, I don't know, Fred. What stood out for you? As we get into this.
Well, some of the stuff I knew,
Okay.
just because over the years, you're doing research or you read an article or whatever.
Right.
But the idea that black folks need to remember that nothing that comes into our neighborhoods gets there without federal approval.
Yep.
Malcolm said it 60 years ago. You can't crack that liquor bottle without cracking that government seal.
Yep.
You don't get, if I wanted to set up a brothel in my neighborhood, there's no way I'm going to be successful for long unless the man gets involved. Like, he has to get involved and authorize the success of that business in my neighborhood.
You thinking about doing a brothel?
I'm not. But one of the mayoral candidates is talking about.
You know, you own a couple of phones.
This dude is talking about decriminalizing the sex industry.
Who's this?
Andrew Yang, who's running for mayor.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So,
okay.
That's a whole nother issue, another topic.
Okay.
But the crack epidemic. You have to ask yourself, where is all this crack? Where is the cocaine coming from?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know any Guatemalans.
well, the other thing is you obviously there's no cocaine plants in Flatbush or East New York, so you know what I mean, or Jamaica, Queens. But I think that what stood out for me, three things stood out for me. The injustice, obviously, with the sentences for black people who were arrested for either possession or selling. Were so much greater than the sentences for people who use cocaine. There was one part they said that 2/3 of the people that use crack were white people, and there were no arrests of white people in Los Angeles that year.
I never knew that.
I was that statistic drove me crazy.
What?
Huh?
You said there was no arrest on white people. What?
In I forgot what year it was, but they said 2/3 of the people that were using crack in Los Angeles were white.
Right.
And not one white person got arrested in Los Angeles that whole year. Everybody else was black or Latino, which is crazy to me. All right. The other thing is nobody got involved until it affected them personally. Right. Like the police, when they killed Ed Byrne, the police officer. All of a sudden, it was they went crazy and started arresting everybody under the sun, right? And then the politicians, they didn't get involved until they had to get reelected, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost people could literally walk by a car accident, see somebody dying, and just keep it moving because it doesn't affect them personally.
Yeah.
Right. And how many kids grew up without parents, not only because of the drugs, but because of the jail sentences, right? People are still in jail now because of things they did in the 90s.
Yeah.
On that situation, that whole, because remember, I'm an '80s child, so that personally, the crack epidemic personally affected me, but
Okay.
it was a gift and a curse.
Okay.
Okay, 'Cause, I come from a mother who did all types of drugs, including crack,
Okay.
which she came to the point where she was unfit to take care of me, which led me into foster care, which actually led me to me and my foster mother, who changed my life for the better.
Okay.
But it affected me in ways because I felt like I always had that void of my mother really not being there.
Okay.
You know, so I learned that I have certain issues, when it comes to abandonment. Like if we make plans, right? And you cancel on me last minute, I get so upset, or I get like really like jittery, like, and then I never knew, like, I just thought I was just upset because you canceled.
Right.
But that abandonment that I got as a child, thinking my mom was going to come get me and never did.
Wow.
And then knowing that now, as I got, the age that I am now, kind of neglecting a mother who wanted to be there. And didn't even,
Okay.
like, she wanted to be there, but I was looking somewhere else, wondering why that person wasn't there.
Got you.
And as I got older, so, that whole ordeal with, crack, it really does affect me in a lot of ways, because I always felt like if these drugs or whatever situation never happened, how my mother would have turned out,
Wow.
Would she would have been the mother that I pictured her,
Right.
or would have still, maybe she just wasn't right to be a mother, to me.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Okay.
I don't know. So,
All right, thanks for sharing that,
I
man.
think what stood out, to just piggyback on what you're saying,
yeah.
how it affected women.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So like, not only did it destroy, just so many women, and I didn't realize, you never think about it that way.
Right.
But the presentation of how it affected women, and subsequently all the children.
Right.
That one woman who looked like she was 30 years older than she really was.
Right.
Who had the missing teeth, I forget her name, but that's devastating.
Yeah.
Because these women were beautiful women, healthy women. They all want to be mothers.
Right.
But it goes to show the strength and the power of this drug where, it's got to be powerful if a mother's willing to abandon her kid.
Right.
If a mother's
Right.
willing to sell her kid.
Yeah. Right. Then the other situation obviously is currently we have the opioid epidemic, which is it's affecting, as far as I know, primarily white people, but you hear now the numbers with black people are getting high also, but it's like it's seen as a mental health problem and they need treatment and we got to get them into programs and things like that in nature, whereas black people are just thrown in jail and,
And let me just add, it's middle class white folks, because there are a bunch of poor white folks who are smoking crystal meth right now,
Right.
and we don't necessarily hear about them.
this is true.
So being poor doesn't help.
This is true. So it's, the crazy part obviously is, like we talked about also before, that the government has to be involved for something like this to even happen, right? And the idea that the government not only was involved in it, but was like sanctioned it, was okaying it or signing off on it. To me, that's just like absurd, like crazy. And meanwhile, the president and his wife talking about just say no while they're ushering in the drug dealers.
And all those guys got off, all of them. Reagan,
Right.
his whole cadre of
Bush.
criminals, all of them, they all got off.
Yeah.
And even now,
Do you feel like money talks? If they didn't have that power or that money, they would have went down? Fred?
Listen, money, when you just look at the ills of this world, a lot of it is because of money.
Right.
It's just about money and power. And, there was a huge need to stem the tide of communism. Because if you're a communist country, that means that the Western countries, the United States and Europe, they can't use their capitalistic exploits in those countries.
Right.
Okay, so you're talking about two complete opposite economic structures, and who really cares about Guatemala? I mean, in the
Nicaragua.
grand scheme of things,
Right.
they're not a threat to the United States.
Right.
But the idea of losing potentially another market, and that's what capitalism is all about. It's all about what's the next market? Who can we exploit? How can we make more money? And when you look at capitalism, there's a ceiling. Unless we start selling to the Martians, there's
Right.
going to be a point where it's going to collapse on itself. That's
Right.
why every opportunity to stem a system like communism was a big deal. I mean, going into Grenada was about stemming communism. Grenada has how many people? 50,000 people living on the island? Who cares about Grenada? But it was another market that they didn't want to lose. So it's all, at least when it comes to this, it's all about money. And of course, at the same time, keeping black folks in a place that would, I mean, the fact that we have black folks still living in America is amazing. It just, shows the strength and tenacity that black folks have, the resiliency, because, I mean, everything that's been done to us over the past 400 years, I think maybe some other people would be completely annihilated.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a very sobering documentary, and even like my wife, I was telling her to watch it because she grew up where like in the projects where she saw dead bodies and crack vials all the time. You know what I mean? Because I mean, in the 80s, it was just crazy. You know what I mean? And like I was telling Fred, like. And the media made it probably 100 times worse than it was. The whole thing with crack babies and crackheads, and obviously they portrayed, and black people were the face of it, right? So it almost made you afraid to either go into certain neighborhoods or even like encounter certain people, because of how it was portrayed on the news. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, it's really like. It's really like a shame what's like been done to black people in this country, man. I mean, it's a tragedy, man.
Yeah.
A tragedy.
And when I think about Brooklyn in the 1980s, I lived in Prospect Heights, so there's a lot of violence, a lot of crack. The people who could packed their bags and bounced. They fled
Right.
Brooklyn. Okay. Now I just drove in my old street last weekend, and I'm looking at the block, and it's just lines of brownstones. So when these people leave Brooklyn, gentrification, which was already happening, then just gets sped up.
Right.
And once it happens, once gentrification in a certain area is locked in, that means you're locked out.
Right. Right.
So can you imagine if my family tried to go back and buy one of these buildings in 1995, it would have been impossible.
Right.
But that's the way the system worked.
Well, do you guys remember, like, if you ever drove through East New York or like especially like in the 90s? I mean,
Wait, what did you say, Kimmy? I'm sorry.
Like if you ever drove through like East New York, like in the 90s.
Oh.
I mean, it was like a ghost town. Like there was so many abandoned buildings, man. Like in the 80s, So it's like, I mean, I'm just talking about how a whole community is just decimated, man. I mean, it's just crazy.
That always puzzled me how we could have like this, like now in Detroit or whatever. We have all these abandoned buildings, even in Jersey, all these, but we can pay somebody $400 million, and I just don't understand that. That always puzzled me how we can have so many abandoned buildings, but we can also pay a person that throws a baseball 400 or 200 million. Like that, I just always thought that was crazy to me. That's just crazy. And then he don't even have to throw out strikes every time.
Right.
Like, I don't get it.
It's a crazy world we live in, upside down world, man.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know if we're gonna. I don't know if you. I mean, I guess we'll talk more about it if you guys want to keep reviewing movies or talk about different issues in the world. But
to be honest with you, I want to because Fred, I just want to say you're gonna actually make me watch it again because I have to honestly say this to you, Fred. I love your opinions. I really do. Like
They alright. They alright.
You gotta give him his flowers while you're here, man. Flowers while you're here. You know, and I do. I like, because you make me look at it totally different, and I just appreciate that. That's why, like, when you be talking, I be like, I don't mean to be like, you know, but I just like what you.
Well, I'll just say one thing. To go back to A Night in Miami, obviously, all the people who were behind making it watched Spike Lee's movie, which is, listen, that's, you got to give credit where credit is due. What I didn't like was Malcolm running out basically naked when his house gets firebombed. I mean, it's the middle of February. He probably would have been wearing pajamas unless he was, you know, getting intimate with his wife.
Right.
I just found it seems like a small, insignificant thing, but I thought it was kind of ridiculous.
It was noticeable, but I was like, okay. Okay.
But that's a director's decision. So maybe for her, that's how she wanted to display that or portray that.
Right.
She wanted to give Malcolm some sex appeal.
Yeah.
Hey, man. I mean, it is what it is, man. But listen, man. I just want to thank you guys for coming on, man. You know, I guess we'll see when we can get you guys back on here again. I know everybody's busy doing their thing, you know. But I just want,
Fred, watch it. You didn't see American Skin yet, right, Fred?
I have not watched American Skin yet.
All right, so that should be our next one. American Skin.
All right,
should be our
okay,
next.
yeah.
Okay.
Once Fred, we can review that.
Well, just give us a date and we'll be there.
All right. Okay, man. Thanks, you fellas. Good seeing you always, man.
Good to see you guys.